Welcome everyone to Real Talk Rituals. Real talk, good vibes, zero judgment.
Woot woot. Woot woot. All right, everybody, buckle up because today we are stepping into one of our 3 sacred messes. Ask the oracle, tell the tea, or confess the chaos.
All right, so today we have a confess the chaos.
Oof.
This contributor would like to be named Jake.
Ah,
Whether that's his real name or not, I don't know.
we don't know.
But here we go. Okay, so here's my confession. I absolutely romanticize leaving people on red for 2 hours and then spiral for the next 2 days wondering if they are mad at me. Like, I will ignore a text because I'm protecting my peace, but the minute they don't respond instantly when I finally reply, I'm suddenly checking their Instagram stories like a detective and convincing myself they've moved on, built a new life, adopted a dog, and forgotten I exist. The chaos is that I wanted space, but I still want the reassurance. Basically, I'm healed enough to set boundaries, but not healed enough to stop being delusional about the consequences.
Well, Jakey Poo, you're just the cutest little thing ever.
Cute as a button.
Cute as a button. Listen, Linda.
Listen, Linda.
Listen. Obviously we have a no judgment space. I feel like a lot of us have been there, especially as we reassert ourselves into the world again after we've had trauma, kind of gone through our cocoon, shut ourselves off, and then we reintroduce ourselves. But the only problem is that we don't fully know who we are. We know who we are. We've done the work, but we don't know now what's going to trigger us when we go out in the world. And so we have to relearn like life, you know? And so at first I was like, oh, buddy, oh man. But then when he said, can you read the part where he talks about like he's learned to set boundaries? Read that part.
Basically, I'm healed enough to set boundaries, but not healed enough to stop being delusional about the consequences.
Yes. So being able to set boundaries is like chef's kiss. It's like you got there. That's important. Now, I would say focus on the fact that you think that it's a consequence. That's not a consequence. That's just a fact, right? Every action has a reaction. And if you want a different reaction, then it's up to you to adjust your line and what that boundary is, because it obviously isn't setting well and not feeling well for you. So I would say, maybe you're not ready, right? Like you're reintegrating, but now you're learning, okay, this doesn't feel good. Well, why doesn't it feel good? And what can I do to change the situation? I mean, I feel like that's probably the best thing that he can do is just be more aware. And he's not doing anything wrong. If he was putting people on red just to be an asshole, that'd be different, right? Like, because you need validation and that's where I kind of thought it was going. But it sounds like he's really like learned to set his boundaries. And that's a really important part of reintegrating into the world and creating a relationship, or wanting to at least create a relationship where you have healthy boundaries in a healthy relationship. But that's really hard for some people, because I know for me, I wasn't modeled a healthy relationship growing up. So, and I'm very visual, so I didn't have a visual of it. And then as things were happening, I was just learning in real time. And everything that happened felt like it was the end of the world. Like, I'm going to get broken up with every single time, like going to extremes. So I would just say that really figuring out what you want and what your boundaries actually are is going to be a really important part of finding someone who is also healed and like in their healed era and wanting a healthy relationship. That road goes both ways. That path, you want to open that up to someone who understands and respects your boundaries. But I mean, essentially, I get what he's saying, right? Like, like I want boundaries, but you can't have them, right? The healing journey isn't over ever, but it definitely needs to get a little bit further for him, I think. What do you think, Em?
Yeah, the first thing I thought of was that old adage of "do as I say and not as I do."
Yeah.
You know. But listen, Linda. Listen, Jake. This may feel like chaos, but it's actually human nature. I mean, you don't actually want constant attention. You do want the security of knowing your people are there no matter what or no matter when. That's what makes me think that there's definitely some deeper healing that needs to go on, because you feel like you just need that comfort of knowing that people are going to be there. Maybe you're not really intending to keep them at arm's length, but you want to know that they're still going to be there when you are ready.
Yeah.
I think that it's not really about the red receipt at all. I think it's about the tiny voice inside of you that says, am I safe? Am I supported? Are my people still going to be my people? Even though I haven't responded for 2 hours or whatever the case may be. So
2 days. Yeah.
2 days, a week, and then all of a sudden you just get an okay. And you're like, what the fuck? Okay, what? Like, what are you even responding to?
Right. I totally forgot because it was so long ago. Yeah. I actually have a friend who does that. And if she ever watches this episode, I guarantee you she'll know exactly who I'm talking about. And she's like a 2-week, like sometimes I go fishing. I'm like, where are you at, little fishy? Because I haven't heard from you in 3 weeks. Like, this is getting real. Like, shit's getting real. And now I really need to make sure that you're actually okay. It gets to that point. But some people just don't have the capacity. Like, they are full up. And I would say as long as you're communicating your boundaries and it's not a surprise to someone, you're doing the right thing. But I can't say that I haven't felt this, like, recently, what he's saying, like, where I have really healthy boundaries and I do really well. And then something comes up where I think of this person or whatever, and I send them something and they don't send anything back for like 8 hours. And I'm like, rude. Like, and then I'm like, oh, wait, like, my bad.
They're working.
JK, that was me filtering through my, my little baby self up to my healed self. But like, it is something that I still like can struggle with. I have to remind myself, like, oh, other people have boundaries too. And then asking myself, do I need like validation, or is this coming from my like inner wounded child? Just really sitting with the feelings that you're feeling, because nobody knows where it comes from and how it filters and what it strikes inside of you, but you, right? Like, we can speculate and we can definitely give advice based on our own feelings and our own experiences. But I think really what it comes down to is like you being real and raw with the emotion that you're feeling and really figuring out where that comes from. Because once you know, then you can name it. And as you know our process, once you name it, you can release it. And once you release it, you're a happy little camper until the next cycle of, oh my gosh, this threw me off. And I think that's like a misconception that people have too. It's like, oh, I did this really hard work and I learned these boundaries. I'm so proud of myself. And then you go out, every situation is different. Some people are like gonna rub you in the wrong way. And you're gonna be like, oh, I thought I fixed that already. Well, yeah, you did, but this is a different scenario and it's a different setting. Like, that means the same thing. It's like different people, different emotions, different settings, right? And so you may have fixed this one situation with this one person. That doesn't mean it won't be triggered again. And it doesn't mean that you haven't done the work and that you aren't, it doesn't mean you backtracked. That was one thing that I definitely, especially recently, was like, had to realize you're not backtracking. It's just a different situation and it brings up that same emotion. And now what a beautiful thing that you have the tool or you've gone through it. So you can be like, oh, I remember how I did it this time. So having that emotion doesn't mean that you're not healed or that you need more. It just means that you got a little emotional. You got some emotions going on in there. Work on those.
I think it's important to understand, though, that if you have been someone that has consistently responded in a swift manner, and now you know that you need a little bit of space, I feel like it's important to communicate that, and the people that are going to be mad about it
aren't your people.
They're not your people, and they're just mad that, you have put up this boundary and they took advantage of you not having them. So I think it's important to make sure that your communication is open, because we all want to know we're held, we're cared for, and we're not too much on the days that we need the space, and we want the reassurance at the same time. But they deserve to be told what your boundaries are, so they're not just guessing.
Yes.
Especially if you've been, like I said, the type that's responded within minutes and now you go 2 hours. You also don't want them to worry that something happened to you, because they do care, right? So there's that side of it too.
What I'm thinking right now is different relationships require different levels of communication, respect, boundaries. And so that's also something to think about as you go through the process of, well, each person's different. How much capacity do I have for this person? And how far am I going to let this person in? I feel like if this is a romantic relationship, there's a certain respect level of communication, and leaving people on red is just disrespectful. If you require a certain level of boundary and the person that you're talking to cannot give that to you, then maybe that's just not a relationship that's going to work, right? But also on the flip side, you gotta be flexible on the other side too. You can't. There's a give here. A little balance that you have to look at, and really decide, and that's why I said towards the beginning, are you even ready for a relationship? Because I feel like it's okay to have really strong walls and boundaries. And then once you start opening up and you find the right people, you start relearning communicating properly. And then those relationships start to feel more seamless, less stressful. I've noticed that with my friendships, like with you and Alyssa and, the people that I talk to on the daily, there's kind of this flow and respect that we have and communication that we have. And even when we hit kind of rougher patches, we have sometimes had to have harder conversations. And I have never experienced a hard conversation with you or Alyssa in a way, how do I say this? In the way that I experienced them with you, I've never experienced with anyone else. And it's because we have open communication and a level of respect. So I know that you guys are a safe space. So whatever I say, even if it upsets you, or even if it's something you don't agree with, I know that you guys hold space for me to like learn my process. And then we kind of, bounce ideas, things like that. So I would just say, like, make sure you're being open to the right kind of relationships and you're setting your mindset and being clear about what you want.
I think it is important to just make sure, like Thylene said, that you are surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to hold space for you, because this is probably not going to last forever. It's probably just a season, but it probably won't be the last time. And so if you set those expectations up that, okay, I was going through something and I just needed a little bit of a buffer, that the people that love you and care about you are going to respect that. And so the next time, maybe a month or two down the road, if this happens again, they'll think back and say, okay, maybe he's just going through a rough patch, But then on the flip side of that, you do have people in your life and, they don't respond. You're like, hey, where the hell you at? And it's okay to say that, like Thylene, if you don't respond to me, like within a couple hours, I have no qualms by like leaving you a voice note. Hey, where the fuck you at? How come you're not responding to me? Get on.
And I would laugh because that would be amazing for one. There was a quote that you had told me before we started, and I feel like it might fit really well in here. Can you read that?
If you don't stay for the falls, you don't get a seat for the rise, which I believe it was a quote by Will Smith that said, if you're not here for my failures, don't expect to be here for my successes.
Yes.
And I think that's super, super important, because your tribe of people are going to be there when you're up here and when you're way down here.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the ones that you want to keep around, because they're the ones that are going to give you the space that you need. And those are the ones that are going to be there when you're ready to come up for air. So
there's also a level of, I think, anxious attachment here. And I only say that because I carry a certain level of my own. And I've gotten pretty good at kind of calling it out within myself. The anxious attachment being that, like, you're doing really good with self and self boundaries, but when it comes to other people, you still have this anxious attachment. And I can tell you that I was very surprised when I still had anxious attachment to my kids, when I still had anxious attachment when a new opportunity for a relationship came around. And I was like, seeing all these things happen where I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. Like, he hasn't called me all day. Like, be aware of when those come up and recognize them for what they are. Anxious attachment was so much not easier, always is never the word, but it was not as challenging, and eventually you could heal. And then someone just connects with you on a certain level, and all that healing that you've done goes out the window, because this person brings a new feeling in for you that maybe you haven't experienced before. And then it triggers down to your old wound or whatever. And that's why it's called a journey, because it never ends. You are going to have situations come up that you think you've healed 10 years later. And you're like, oh, well, that's a big one. The point of the whole thing is, are you aware enough to feel it as it comes, work through it, and release it in real time? That's when when you can hit your cycles, recognize it for what it is, feel it, name it, release it. Then you know that you have hit a level of healing that anything could come at you and you're going to be okay. Because not all the chaos around here doesn't matter, because what is within you is a calm process that you've created and practice. Remember, we talk about the muscle. And once that muscle is strong, come at me, bruh. Like, I'm not going to say that someone couldn't come along and like really throw me into an emotional hot mess, because it's entirely possible, but I would work through it a lot faster. And I've proved that. Someone did come into my life, and it was 2 weeks, I think. And I was like, went through the whole process, like the excitement, the kind of down phase, like the 2-year phase where you're like, oh, like you kind of lose the luster. And then the breakup. 2 weeks. Because that sounds psycho probably to a lot of people, but it's because I can really be aware of the emotions that are coming at me, and I can filter them through, and I avoid a whole 10-year relationship that ends up in the gutters, because one, I know my worth, and I'm not willing to settle for anything less, because I have a process that I work through every single time that I feel something uncomfortable. I have a good group of people around me that support me, love me, and have capacity and give me space to speak to things. And I know how to filter things at this point, and I've really gotten better with my anxious attachment. So, I mean, if anyone has anxious attachment questions, put them in the comments and we can really go through some of those, because I don't want to say I'm an expert, but your girl, she's had some anxious attachment stuff, and worked through a lot of it. So if I can help you, I would love to.
Here I am.
Here I am. Just put your questions in the comments. Because, I mean, I got stories on stories on stories.
I think it's also important to note that when you do go through these bouts of, leaving people on red, it's really important to dig deep, though, and really find out why. Because even though it might be something that just comes up every now and then, you still need to really dig in to find out why this is happening, and really get to the root of the problem. If it is anxious attachment, or if it's, if you have abandonment issues and you just want to see if the person is actually going to be there at the end,
Yep. Which means it has nothing to do with the person. It's about the feeling you get from the person. Yeah. Like, that could literally be any person.
Yeah.
Right? It could be any human being. It's the chase is the feeling, not the thing, the person, the person themselves,
Yeah. I feel like it's important to also just let you know that this isn't chaos. It's just I need a minute, but also please don't abandon me paradox. Maybe, again, we need a little bit more information. Is this the first time this happened? Has this happened, with specific situations on repeat?
I feel like it's not. And this was my next thing, was the definition of insanity, right? And our patterns that we go through. I don't think this is the first time, because he's too damn aware of what's happening, and he's already got boundaries that he didn't have before. That tells me he's somewhere in the messy middle, which is why it feels like chaos, because you haven't gotten to a point to categorize yet. And when you can't name something, it feels chaotic as fuck. Let me tell you, like, I've been there. When you don't know what's happening and you feel like you're in this like limbo land, shit feels chaotic. And when you can start breathing through things and really figuring out the why, like Em said, and really categorize those feelings, I'm telling you, that chaos will calm. It'll feel a lot more calm. But don't forget the definition of insanity. doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result is not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to repeat your old patterns. Okay, so find a program like the Cocoon Butterfly Method, or like M's book,
The Soul Word Story Method.
Find something that resonates with you and just start moving through the process. I know a lot of people feel weird when they're going through things like that, or go against the grain. Get embarrassed a little bit. Get out of your comfort zone. That is the only way to disrupt the patterns that are happening right now. So if you have boundaries and you still feel chaotic and you still feel that kind of anxious attachment or whatever that might be, for me, I'm calling it out as that because that's what it resonates for me. But doing what you're doing isn't working. Otherwise, you wouldn't be writing us, you know? And we love you so very much, you cute little bunny. We just want you to try something. We're trying to like give you anything and everything that we have in our arsenal so that you can find one, even if there's just one golden nugget or something that you can grasp to that makes sense or clicks for you. All it takes is that one thing to throw you out of the cycle that you're in and really push you forward into the next steps of your journey.
Yeah, I think just to kind of close out this session, I think for me, I feel like you don't really want someone blowing up your phone. I think you just want the emotional equivalent of them sitting, next to you and, sharing your snacks and being like, whenever you're ready, I'm here type thing. So I think that's
Snacks.
in my opinion, that is what you're looking for. It's not the attention that you're craving, it's the consistency. So, and you just,
which is fair. Like, it's okay to want that. Yeah. So don't feel like you can't have that or you don't deserve it. Like, that's fair.
That's totally okay. I think it's important. Yeah. It's important for us as human beings. We just need to know that our tribe hasn't wandered off, and that's totally normal, not chaos. So.
Yep. I feel it to the bones.
Whoop, whoop.
Woot woot. Well, that felt like free therapy.
Except we're not therapists. We only talk and look like we are.
If you've got something to ask, tell, or confess,
visit us at iamherthepodcast.com. Scroll down to Real Talk Rituals and submit your contribution.
Trust me, we love your chaos.
And if you learned something today, we want your input. Did Jake set his boundaries and communicate them clearly? Or did he just leave the people on red?
Until next time.
Thank you for listening to Real Talk Rituals. Bye, everybody.
Woot woot.